So I've got a bit of a conundrum. I'm a big fan of DJI. I've owned, this would be my second DJI product. I went out and got the new Mavic 3 Pro. Honestly, when I bought it, I don't think I used it for probably 15 to 20 days after receiving it. I just got a whole bunch of equipment in. So we went back home to visit some family and I finally got a chance to whip it out. And the second day of flying it, it malfunctioned. So with these new drones, they have these things called omnidirectional sensors, meaning they have sensors in front of them, behind them, above them, below them, and to both of the sides. So therefore, if you are in normal or what the hell modes is it actually? So on your remote, this is the RC remote, but all these have the same functions. If you are in C or N is normal, it's just a standard mode. C, I think, is like slow or something. I don't remember. So if you're in either of these two modes, your omnidirectional sensors are supposed to work. They're supposed to be on. There should be no issues. But your drone is not going to fly as fast as if you click it over into sport mode. Now, when you are in sport mode, that means it shuts all your sensors off. You can go super fast, do all sorts of stuff, but your sensors will not be functioning. Now, for safety reasons, I keep it in normal mode, just right in the center. Always done that. Don't know why. So my brain thought, okay, I can let both my little brothers try it out. It's a cool drone, why not? So my littlest brother, Zach, he's about 13. He does good, right? He just goes straight up, and then flies around really high up in the air, then comes back down when he's all done. No big deal. So I was like, oh, my other little brother, he's a bit older. He's almost 18. I figured, hey, why not? For some reason, he flew forward and under the power line and then straight up. The sensors did not say anything, and it all did happen pretty quick. Now, one of the propellers actually caught the wire and broke, and that's kind of where things start to get a little funky. It's still in the air. It's kind of like, wobbling a little bit because it broke off a part of the I think it was one of the back propellers. It's still in the air. It's still fine. It's hovering, actually. It's just stopped. It's hovering because he let go of the remote the second we realized it was going to fly into something. And keep in mind, this is a normal mode. Sensors should be on anyways. But regardless, it's sitting there. I'm like, okay, land it. Let's land it. And if you guys can see, I'm not going to bother turning these on. But unlike the other ones that have the button up here somewhere, the RC remotes have a little touch button. You touch it and it'll land. Now, I try to get it to do that. I press the land, try to get it to return to home. At this point, there was no connection warnings, nothing. And I pressed for it to land and come back down because it was not responding to my remote to move around. I just pressed land, so it should, land. What does it do? It decides to climb 10 feet up in the air and then continue to plummet straight into the ground. Not sure why it kind of did the opposite and went higher, but regardless, it still malfunctioned. My problem actually really comes with the service. And now, before you jump to conclusions and say, well, you should have known, don't fly near power lines if you just read the manual, and I do understand that. But I do think I do have some room to say, hey, I do think there was definitely a malfunction. Anyways, I can ramble on about that all day, but my biggest issue comes with the service. I sent it in right after I crashed it, probably 2 days after, and that was on July 25th, and they received it by August 2nd. So I've got all my emails right here on this one, the repair, my case number and everything, August 2nd, okay? Not too long, maybe about a week after I sent it in, a little less than a week actually. And then immediately later that day, on August 2nd, they send me a bill saying, hey, it's going to cost $300 to fix your drone, which honestly was a lot less than I thought it was going to be for a brand new drone. But regardless, I was like, you guys were supposed to review the flight data. Technically, it should be covered under warranty. That was I think it was my 5th flight. I could be wrong. It was the second day I've flown. I've flown it the day before, no problems. Worked like my other drone, just a little better with the RC remote. Camera's phenomenal. Great drone. But like I say, the issue comes down to the service. August 8th, they finally get back and start to give an analysis report and kind of just tell me it was under GPS mode. So in the first email, it says that I flew forward, flew up, and then crashed into an object. That's what their flight data says. And that's all it says. Anyways, got the coordinates, everything. And he's like, it's a non-manufacturing error. You flew it forward, you flew it up, and it crashed. Not our problem. Literally, your selling point on this, other than the camera, is your omnidirectional sensing system. If you were to be like, okay, why am I paying more other than the camera? It's going to be like, well, this has the omnidirectional sensors. And when you're in normal mode, they're on. Now, there are limitations, and I understand that. But this is where things kind of get a little more annoying and a lot more confusing, at least for me. So we emailed back and forth I'm saying, hey, I'm not really satisfied with this result. Can I get a more detailed report and analysis? And if I need to, I can even post all these emails, and I have no problem with that at all, because they just keep telling me pretty much not their fault, not the manufacturing error, it's a user error. So I told them, don't really like the answer to this. I wanted a more in-depth report. He then replies, well, factors like where you're at, the daylight, if it's too dark or this and that can affect flying. But for your convenience, I'm going to escalate this to the next person, to our supervisor, and they will get back to you. So, okay, waiting for a response. I know they just kind of use different aliases for, this is a third-party company, if I'm not mistaken, out of some probably third world country that's answering these, and this is the biggest problem here. And I've exchanged phone calls and stuff, which never get anywhere. I can get a hold of people, but I can never get anywhere in these phone calls. So I keep having to go back to this email. And this one lady, Jenny, says, hey, the data analysis team said that you were flying. What the heck? Hey, data analysis team was viewing these, and they say that you were flying too late at night. And she said that I was flying at 8:20 p.m. because it was still broad daylight when I was flying. Now, the actual timestamp was different, but I'll get to that. And I'm just a little confused, and I'm like, how was I flying at night? And because they argue that there was insufficient light, therefore I was flying at night, and that's why they didn't work, and that's my problem. So I email back, and I'm like, that doesn't seem right. And so she replies, I think the next day, thank you for following up, blah, blah, blah. I've already raised this matter to our data analyst team, and according to them, the unit was flying at night, and there was a warning about how this will affect obstacle avoidance at the beginning. This is the reason why the unit did not give a warning when it had its first impact. After that initial impact, the unit started to drift due to damage done in the impact. It stayed steady until I pressed return to home, and then it flied upward and then plummeted. So that to me makes no difference. But she sent a screenshot with the flight data, because they do record flight data on these things, and it shows where you went, your height, the time, even the timestamp on it said 17:20:30, which is military time. Now, on our time, that's not military time. That would be 5:20 and 30 seconds. 5:20 p.m. and 30 seconds in the afternoon. And if you look up on Google when the sun set that day in that particular area, if you go on Google and type in your location, when did the sun set on this particular day, it will tell you when the sun set that day. On July 25th, the sun set at 8:52 p.m. 8:52 p.m., meaning I had over 3 hours from 5:20 until the sun set. Even if it did set at the 8:20, which she initially said, I still had daylight. But there was 3 hours until sunset, meaning I had sufficient light. It was not cloudy, it was sunny, it was not windy. This is why I'm just utterly confused, and she's just lying at this point. They're just kind of throwing out random things and random times, and then they show the right time, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And I send another thing, and I'm like, I don't want to get a lawyer here, but this is not right. And I'm trying to get him to escalate to someone who has a brain. And I'm not trying to, I don't have money to sue. But if I absolutely had to, maybe, but I don't want to do that. I'm not that type of person. I don't have petty money like that. I'm just getting really frustrated because I'm like, lady, you just told me I was flying at 8:20 in the afternoon. Still isn't sunset. It would be another half hour until sunset. But the flight data shows 5:30:20 or 5:20:30, sorry, which is 5:20 in the afternoon. It just doesn't add up. And so I'm replying back like, I want an actual person to look at this and explain this to me, because this makes no sense. And I've made a couple phone calls in between these, and I'm kind of like, can you please escalate to somebody that's a superior that can actually talk to me? Man, they have a hard time understanding what I'm trying to say and how I'm trying to explain it. And I've got to lay out the whole story every single time I give a phone call. And I can never get to a manager. So that's lovely. But they pretty much tell me that this wasn't a manufacturing issue and that they'll offer me 50% off, which you'd be like, man, that's $150 to repair it. Just pay the money and go. And that's why I'm kind of posting this. I mean, like, is that the route to go? Do I just take my money and walk? Or is this how a company is supposed to treat loyal customers just because they're worth $13 billion? Also, the other thing, am I genuinely in the wrong here, or did these actually malfunction? And that's what I'm curious about. And I can post flight data if I absolutely need to. So we go back and forth because I'm like, hey, I want to know, like, how does this make any sense? So I'm like, can you guys give me a detailed explanation about how 5:20 in the afternoon is not sufficient lighting? Because she keeps coming back with the same answer. And she's like, well, our data analyst team has reviewed it multiple times and it's the same answer. And it makes no sense to me whatsoever. So I'm replying and just kind of getting the same answer. And she's finally like, okay, well, I'll have one of them reach out to you or something along those lines. And nothing. I hear nothing for 2 or 3 days. So I email back saying, hey, I've been kind of waiting. And then, this is the fun part. And then I get another reply. Finally, something that's now totally different. It has nothing even to do with it. So this is their reply to why the light was not sufficient. They said, thank you for your patience and support of the case. They always start out with these, just whatever. I've received the following explanations from the tech department regarding the data analysis they conducted with your flight records. The distance that the aircraft avoids obstacles is related to the current flight status of the aircraft. The faster the speed, the earlier the time to avoid obstacles. There is no specific limit for the distance. Pretty much saying that I was moving too fast. Now, in normal mode, you cannot go that fast. And it is plenty of time for the sensors to detect what's above it when it was literally right above it and I got no warnings. They even said in a prior email that in the flight records, I had no prior warning, but they gave a reason why. It was because of the conditions, even though it was literal perfect conditions, not cloudy, not windy, just sunny, broad daylight. Flight environment requires to fly and avoid in areas with obstacles, crowds or trees or small and fine objects such as branches, power lines cannot precisely be censored by its vision system in fast speed, stating that it can, just not at a fast speed. Now, what speed is that? What speed? Because I don't understand how much slower I need to go for it to detect a power line right above me, even though it's not like I just flew directly into it. My brother went forward a little and then up. It was still there. It should have still sensed it, and it was not going that fast. And it says, with sufficient light or not, the vision sensor could not precisely detect small or fine objects. These are not small or fine objects. This is a thick, high voltage power line. Now, I understand it's one of those items that they say can be kind of one of those flimsy, tricky ones, but this was perfect conditions too. And then they sent me a screenshot about in their manual how it says to avoid obstacles, crowds, trees, and things like that, and just kind of the operating environment. And that's their kind of final reply to me. And I'm not sure what to do here. Am I in the wrong for being upset and thinking that the sensors failed when they should have detected it? I've gotten no warning. Well, the propeller hit it. Not the drone. The propeller did. And it was still sitting there and it was hovering. It was kind of a little wobbly, but it was hovering. And then I pressed return to home. And then it climbed upward another 5 or so feet off to the side a little as well. It just kind of went like, so it was hovering, hit the power line, hovered, and then it went, and then just plummeted right into the ground. It's like, do I need video evidence to show how badly that malfunctioned, especially after that? And I understand how the electromagnetics can interfere with that. I understand that. So I guess at the end of the day, is that my loss? Or I guess the question to all this is, am I being above and beyond? Should I just pay the $150 and move on? And is this how they should treat loyal customers? And I'm genuinely curious. You guys can be totally against me, and that's totally fine. I want to know, did they do everything they should properly? I mean, they did offer 50% off the repair service, but in terms of warranty repair, are they kind of just kicking me around in the bucket and hoping I finally just pay the repair cost? Should I pay the repair cost? Should I get a lawyer? Should I not? What's the verdict when you spend $2,200 on a drone, rely on the sensors that they hype up and make a selling point of this fantastic drone when it works, but when it fails, it's the user's fault, not the manufacturing fault, unless it was like you received it and there was a crack in the gimbal kind of thing. I'm not sure. Let me know down in the comments.